When Atlas announced that they were going to release Persona 3 for this year, I was a bit skeptical. They just ported over Persona 3, 4, and 5 all in the past 2 years, and with many fans, myself included, clamoring for a much needed remake of the first two Persona games, I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It also doesn't help that I just came back from playing another amazing RPG in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which I thoroughly enjoyed and I recommend anyone to give it a try. For Persona 3 Reload basically being free to play on Game Pass, I decided to give it a try and I have some things I would like to say about the game. What's going on with all you beautiful people, extraterrestrials, and whatever you want to identify yourself as? It's your boy Rob. Yes, just Rob. Back with the first game review of the channel. There's going to be many more to come in the future as I plan on getting more consistent with the content. I want to give out 2 quick disclaimers though. The first being that I'm doing this review from the perspective of someone who recently played Persona 3 FES about 2 years ago, so I won't go too in depth about things such as social links or the story, but I will bring up bits and pieces here and there. The second disclaimer is keep in mind that this is my opinion of the game. Just because I like or dislike the game doesn't mean that you will like it or may not like it. Please give it a try yourself and think of it more as a reference point. While all the disclaimers out the way, strap yourself in, hands and feet aside to ride at all times, and somebody cue my intro. Persona 3 Reload is a remake of the original Persona 3 game, which was released back in 2006. Man, some of y'all probably wasn't even born yet. Those that have played the original game knows the rest about the story. The MC you're playing as gets off the train unknowingly as Dark Hour begins. Persona 3 Reload's atmosphere is a bit different from 4 and 5, as where shadows appear during the day, but in 3, they appear during night, in between midnight, to be exact, which is known as the Dark Hour. I always thought that Persona 3's atmosphere was one of the best in all of the series, even better than 2 and 1. Just for the simple fact that you're now fighting enemies in night, and there's only a time period where you and the rest of your party members will even be able to know what's going on. It's kind of like it's almost nothing is what it seems. Kind of gives off Twin Peak vibe. And no, I'm not talking about the restaurant, I'm talking about the TV show. Let's stay focused here. After getting settled in, you go to school, get introduced to your classmate, Yukari, and she informs you that you both live in the same dorm, so you know what that means. After school, we head back home and meet the rest of the group, which is Mitsuru, the student council president, and Okusuke Iku. Listen, it is what it is. But listen, Iki is also the leader of the Siege group. So after meeting with them, you decide to call it a night. And as you're sleeping, Yukari, Mitsuru, and I'm not gonna say his name again, are all spying on you while you sleep. Why? Because they're fucking creeps. But in all seriousness, they want to see if you have the potential, which allows you to use your persona. Well, while they're being creeps, they get a radio response from Akihiko, who mentions that he fucked up big time by fighting the Big Shadow and decides to bring it to the dorm. Why? I have no clue. Dude is dumb. Yukari runs to wake you up and tells you that we need to run to the rooftop. But sight, here comes the Shadow to shut all that shit down. As we make it to the rooftop, we're greeted with that Big Shadow I mentioned, and to take it down, Yukari pulls out her Glock, Evoker, to unleash her persona. However, being a useless piece of trash that she is, she chokes as usual and is unable to pull the trigger. Her Evoker gets knocked out of her hand and ends up sliding next to the MC. He begins to pick up the Evoker, put it to his head, and this is the moment where I realized I had my first issue with Reload. That'll be a trend moving forward. Now I want you to watch 2 clips for me, and in your honest opinion, tell me which one is more impactful.
Go on. Wait.
Persona.
Thou art I, and I am thou. From the sea of thy soul I come. I am Orpheus, master of strings.
It's here.
Wait.
Go on. Persona. I am thou. Thou art I. From the sea of thy soul I come. I am Orpheus, master of strings.
Now, I'm not going to tell you which one I think is more impactful, but by the end of the video, you'll get the gist. See, while Reload graphics are nice and gives it that nice modern touch and makes the game look a little bit more prettier, actually a lot prettier, it just kind of took away that grittiness of the original Persona 3, which made it such a cult classic. But as always, more on that later. So it whooped the Shadow's candy ass, and everyone is amazed, and the next day continues. On the next day, we meet up with Junpei, who has the potential as well, and we also meet up with Mitsuru, who agrees to let us go to Tartarus for the first time. Tartarus is the main grinder area of this game, and trust me, we'll get more on that later as well. Up to this point, the game starts to open up a bit more, especially once you start getting social links, and this allows us to venture out and pretty much do what we want until the next full moon stage, which you can consider boss fights. Now would be a good time to talk about what I consider to be the bread and butter of the game, which is the gameplay. P3 Reload offers the same style of gameplay as all the other Personas as far as it being turn-based, but it adds its own twist. New additions such as Theurgy, I think that's how you pronounce it. I dropped out of college, sorry guys. But while this new addition does make the gameplay feel very fresh, it does also make the game feel a bit OP, not gonna lie. So Theurgy, and yes, I did look up Google Translate on how to pronounce it, so fuck you, but Theurgies are these special moves that you and your party members can pull off in the heat of combat. Each party member has two that they can pull off, well, minus the NC, since he has the power of friendship. You feel your Theurgy meter by doing certain combat characteristics, which is also new to Persona 3 Reload. For example, Yukari's Theurgy is filled by healing party members, Junpei is filled by weakening enemies or landing a critical hit, and Aigis is filled by doing physical seals, just to name a few. Before we dive more into the combat, let's go ahead and show off some of these new abilities.
Your strength. Don't get careless. Let's end this. Just one more. Take that.
Max firepower! Let's go! Time to heat things up! Not gonna lose.
Keep in mind that a lot of these skills were being used when I was low level, and I wasn't buffing or debuffing at that time. But as we got later on into the game, a lot of these skills become very OP. Hell, Junpei has one where he does halo damage and gets half of his health back. I think he even gets all of his health back. So these skills can become very, very OP if you know what you're doing in the game. In my opinion, this makes the difficulty a bit easier on the game overall. For reference, I played the game on normal, and by the time I got to mid-game, I was one-shotting common enemies and even beating bosses in less than 10 turns. And before any smarty pants ask, well, why didn't you change the difficulty to hard if it's so easy? I did, but I prefer my enemies to not be bullet sponges. If the solution is just to make the game more difficult, make the enemies soak more damage, then I'm just going to keep the game on normal, period. Tartarus is less of a bitch to grind in, but just because you put a pig in a dress doesn't mean it's a beautiful woman. It's still a pig at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, Tartarus is still a bitch to grind in. The biggest additions includes the Monad Door and the Monad's Passage, which is a series of mini bosses that you go through which gives out 2 treasure chests that contain items. These items for the most part aren't really anything special, but every once in a while you'll get something like a special egg or a special weapon. There's also a big ass clock called the Great Clock, which can level up any 2 party members of your choice to be on the same level as the MC. So for example, if the MC is level 20, but Yukari and Junpei is level 16, you can automatically level them up to level 20 in the next battle. While this is a nice addition, it still comes with its flaws. For starters, the Great Clock only appears once per block, and you have to unlock it by opening a random chest using the Twilight Fragment. So there's a little bit of RNG involved. It's stated that it can appear multiple times in one night while in Tartarus, but the chances are low, and I never had this happen in my playthrough. If you're also trying to level up a member who's not in your party, then you have to add them to the party and get into a battle with them, and then you have to go take them out if you choose to take them out. This is very annoying because while the Great Clock does send you back to the entrance to add the members, you don't even go back to the floor you were previously on, so you have to run all the way back to that said floor. What I would simply do to fix all of this is do exactly what it did in Persona 5, which is allow non-after party members to gain half of the XP that you receive after battle. This ensures that no party members are too far apart in XP, so you don't have to keep grinding each and every character. I don't see why Atlus didn't include this in a full remake game, but it was in vanilla Persona 5, which was released in 2017. You also don't get tired of Tartarus anymore, which was annoying as fuck in the original and fast. With the addition of Fuuka also being able to use her Theurgy and give you SP boosts as well, you can really grind and get into the border floor of a block in one night, especially if you have some SP replenishing items. There's also the shift mechanic, which is new to this game, but if I'm being honest, it's just a glorified baton pass. Even with the baton pass, you can get a damage buff for each turn, but it's non-existent here. I really feel like Atlus dropped the ball on this one, and yes, I do know Ken, once you max out his combat characteristic, he can give off a little bit of XP to whoever he baton passes to. I'm sorry, shift mechanic too. However, it's not really that much to get excited over. Alright, I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of talking about this gameplay now. Let's talk about some of the quality of life changes Atlus made to this remake of Persona 3. As I mentioned before, I won't really dive into social links since not much has changed from the original game, plus I don't want to give away too many spoilers. I did, however, want to mention some of the activities you could do with the party members during the night. All new to Reload, you can do activities such as cooking, gardening on the rooftop, as well as watching TV with all your party members, to name a few. Doing this can gain a good amount of benefits such as getting healing items, increasing your social stats, and even having a party member you spend time with learn a new characteristic that you can use in combat. On my playthrough, for example, after hanging out with Aigis a couple of times, she eventually learned a new characteristic to where she increases her physical skills. So she already gets her meter fills up after each physical skill that she does. Now the damage increases as well. After that, she became a must-stay in my party. I would recommend that you do this for all your party members, even if you don't plan on using them for combat, simply because the cutscenes does help out with the party member's character development. Reload also brings the game a fresh coat of paint and some good quality of light change that really help keep up with the modern era of gaming. New UI is very clean and just beautiful. I know I gave them shit early for making some of the scenes from the original game lose their edge, but when it comes down to the menu and map layout, they ran their Duffy bag on this one. Seeing the MC animated with a blue splash art as you scroll through the menu is a very nice and subtle change that really makes the animation pop out more. I even caught myself just staring at it a couple of times while I'm on a restroom break or just coming back from checking my phone. They also added some new music for the Reload soundtrack and also moderned some of the classics as well. And as you always know with Atlas, they're gonna have a banging ass soundtrack.
Nothing comes between us, dancing like ballerinas under the moonlight all night long. How these plain and simple scenes get painted so vividly by you. I just wanna stay with you.
Let's go over some pros and cons before we get down to the final verdict, shall we? The new addition to Tartarus are much needed and a great addition to the overall grinding from the previous game. The energy and the combat characteristics are really cool, and I would love for Atlas to try to build upon them in Persona 6. Whenever they're actually deciding to work on it instead of, trying to milk the Persona 5 count. The different activities you can do with your party members at night really makes your group feel like one big happy family. I've always loved and appreciated that the most about Persona 3. Just the overall party members and how they're all connected and structured around each other. Other than Persona 4, I don't think there's any other group of the series that can rival the 3 party members. And for the last bit of positive, the UI is very, very nice. As a guy who's a sucker for animation, I can really appreciate the attention to detail they put on it. Now for some of the negatives. I really wish there was some sort of way my non-after party members could get a little bit of SP, just so the grind won't be long. I rolled credits at about 80-ish hours, but I probably would have been done at 70 if I didn't have to spend the extra time grinding the way I did. I also don't feel incentivized to grind other than to become stronger or get new personas. And honestly, once you get a couple of strong physical and healing / buffing personas, you really don't even need any others. Take another recent JRPG like an example, in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. With the different ways you can play by switching your playstyles in the form of jobs and getting materials to craft legendary weapons, I felt rewarded when I went back and grinded in a dungeon a couple of times. They even have items to help you gain both job SP as well as overall SP, just to help you out a little bit further. I'd like to see something like this implemented in the next Persona game in the future. The shift mechanic, honestly, in my opinion, sucked ass. Yes, I'm happy it was introduced in this remake, but there's no other point in using it other than to help expose the enemy weaknesses. Added something like a damage buff modifier, which they did in Persona 5, but helped make the boss fights feel less of a war of attrition due to them being damage bonded and more of a balanced reward if you took the time to actually grind out your character, took your time to actually fuse the personas that you want. The story is pretty much exactly the same, which I expected. However, the main thing I was looking for in it was more of a backstory for Strega, since they're the main enemies in this game other than, obviously, the final boss. Why do they care so much about keeping their personas in spite of the world ending if Tartarus continues? What were they like before they had the personas and created Strega? Why does Jin have so much loyalty towards the cave? I know towards the end Jin does briefly explain why he's loyal, but it was more of a surface level reasoning, and I don't want to try to dive too deep into it to avoid spoilers. I feel a couple of flashbacks would have really helped make us feel more emotion towards them as we get later on towards the game. I played this story twice now, and I still really don't have a reason for wanting to beat Strega, other than the game forcing me to know it's a progressive story. As I showed from the MC's Persona Awakening clip, the updated graphics are a double-edged sword for me. While I do appreciate the graphic overhaul, I feel like it also killed the game's dark tones. Some of the most impactful moments of the game just feels too prettied up. I can't help but to feel like the game has too much of a Persona 5 look, instead of just trying to keep its authentic grittiness. I know that the art styles are a tad bit different from Persona 3, but if you tell me they are at least inspired by them, you're either blind or you're a super fan. And I can't talk to those type of people. It's only constructive criticism over here. It just seems like since Persona 4, the series took more of a kiddie anime type of approach from the grounded feeling it had in some of the early installments such as 1, 2, and even the original 3. Now don't get it twisted, P4 is still my favorite out of the entire series, and I played Persona 5 just off the combat alone. But the updated graphics kind of took away what made P3 stand out from those other modern titles. And if I really want to be petty, Akihigo's new voice actor is not it at all. Reload is a solid remake of a cult classic that was due for a refresher, and I would definitely recommend for someone trying it if it's your first time playing Persona 3 or if you just want to get into the series overall. Hell, you might have a different outlook than I had on the game since I played the game before versus someone who's experiencing the story of Persona 3 for the first time in this remake. With all that being said, I can't help but wonder why this game got a remake after recently being ported over to both Xbox and the PC, but not Persona 1 and 2, which you can only really play due to owning either a PS1, a PSP, or through emulation. Oh wait, that's right. This game is for sure not perfect and has its glaring flaws, and I wonder how Atlus will move going forward through the Persona series. I want to see innovation from them instead of a decent or good game coming from the big money maker Persona 5 heading to Persona 6. While this game is new, it doesn't feel or even look that much different from Persona 5, and I don't want the next installment to the series to just be Persona 5.5. Nonetheless, I wouldn't put 80 plus hours to the game or be making this video if I didn't enjoy my time, which I did. That's why I would like to give Reload a 7 out of 10. Again, this is my opinion of the game, and if you're interested in playing the game overall, I recommend just getting on your own and then just let me know how you enjoy it in the comment below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and even consider subscribing. And if you didn't like it, shit, hit the dislike too. All publicity is good publicity. Expect more videos coming to the near future. I definitely got some shit in the works, including Elden Ring DLC. I definitely have not forgot about that. I'm waiting on it. And it just feels good to be back editing, man. I know I have been kind of taking a little break. Trust me, it hasn't been a break. I literally just been trying to beat Persona and get this out the way, because I like to try to get all my games done before I give a full review, because you never know what can change in the end that can skew your opinion. Alright, I'ma see y'all when I see y'all, and as always, stay blessed, and I'm out. Peace.